All right, hello and welcome to this. I guess it's I don't know if it's a sad, but the reality of the situation with Marvy markers. Okay, now I really like coloring my imagery to get in impression variation within my imagery that I'm stamping out rather than just always stamping something out in a uniform color and then coloring it in. When you have imagery that's kind of more solid based and not outline based, which is basically everything in Stampscapes, if you want to get that color within the images themselves, what you do is you take your markers and color these up like this. You can use multiple tones and whatnot, stamp it out, and you have a varied kind of a watercolory type of impression, okay? But, all right, so the Marvy 1500 series has long been regarded as the best type of pens for that, especially for imagery that's not so outline based, okay? Because these brush markers are really thick in the tip, okay? They're really large, and you can get a lot of coverage. So, they have a set amount of ink, of course, within the barrel, the reservoir within each pen. These pens themselves, the ones without this black kind of barrel coating right here, are really old. These ones are probably at least 30 years old. These ones are probably around the 20-year-old mark. So they last forever, okay? Now here's one of the things that I've always been mentioning, and I have a video, it's buried within the, I don't know, whatever, the 1400, 1200, I don't know how many videos I have posted, but it's how to re-ink these, but I thought I would just do a live. Hello, Froggy Fresh! Sad news on the Marvy front here. But here's the thing that you can do. You can use if you need a pair of pliers to open up the back of the pens, you can use that, but I don't know, usually I can just get it out. And I've probably done this several times with these pens already, so this one's a little bit looser. I don't know if I can get all these, but you go like this, and then you just bounce it out like that, and then you have the reservoir for your pens. Now, Marvy Matchables came out at one time, and they're discontinued too, okay? So they have a lot of the re-inkers for them still, and for their pads, okay? So this is the number 9 pink Marvy matchable, like this, okay? And they call them matchables because these pads matched the pens. They didn't have all of the colors available in the pad matchables form, but they are Froggy Fresh. Oh my gosh. And not only that, so okay, so the refills are just, the pads have always been discontinued, but then they released a blank pad, okay? And you can ink it up with whatever color you wanted. Fantastic, okay, because they had tons of re-inkers in stock. The re-inkers, though, they never intended to keep those in production. What they wanted to do was just, they probably had hundreds, if not 1,000 re-inkers of many colors still available, because these have an unlimited shelf life. They're not going to dry via evaporation on the shelf. So I think probably like Judykins and maybe some other people convinced them to release the blank pad, but then they discontinued that at some point in time, and so they have some of these reinkers left. Now some people here on the chat in a previous video, they were telling me that a lot of the colors are out, like black, the re-inker for black is out. That's going to be the most popular color. But I noticed things like Salvia Blue are out. That was one of the colors that I used the most. In pad form, though, okay? But they still have other colors like Caribbean Blue and whatnot. Yeah, Candy. They have, the color line that dye-based inks with Marvy, this is like a really small part of their business. If you look at the Uchida website, they sell all kinds of different types of pens, sets, etc. Hello, Linda. Yeah, so, and hello, Donna, by the way. But, yeah, so I chest checked because I directed someone over there today, And I don't know, they contacted them and they probably saw a bunch of things that said sold out. So they have the listing there for a lot of the different colors, but there's a sold out if you bring it up on a lot of them. So I don't know what to say. I directed someone over to the brush markers too, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 days ago, and I was seeing all these different colors because these pens, they came in like 120 or something, or 140 different colors, and there were a ton of them. And I don't know, I was looking at some, and I don't know, this color, this color, this color, you know, a lot of them I thought were better colors than the colors that I have. The colors in pen form that I tended to get were the ones that were also available in pad form because I had the re-inkers for them, okay? But I don't know, I might have to, you know, log on there and pick up some of those pens. But anyways, here's what you do for these pens right here. These are always fantastic, and they last, again, forever. You take your reservoir like this. Remember what side's kind of the top here and bottom, and you want to kind of, you know, put that back in the same way. But you just take your re-inker and you drop some rinker, you know, fluid down here, and you can kind of see it creeping down this. I don't necessarily want to fill in this whole reservoir, okay? I'm not going to use like, you know, a quarter of my bottle on this or something like that. You just want to get it going a little bit. Oh, let me show you this pen right now, and we'll do a little comparison. See this pen right here? It's looking pretty dry, right? Okay. So what you do is you get that, you know, reservoir kind of filled up like that. And you put it back in the same way. And by the way, I do store my pens upside down. I didn't used to store the new ones upside down like that, though. I'd usually store them on their side like this. But I know my pens are, you know, for the most part, they're pretty dry. But then, you know, through capillary action, this will fill up in here. But, you know, if you want to use it, what you do is you just kind of put a few drops on here like so, just to get that moistened up and to, I don't know, kind of initiate that, you know, that capillary action between the reservoir and the tip like that. And you are ready to go. I mean, it's ready to go right now because it's, you know, I put that ink in the tip like that. But I still had some residual darker tones on this probably from last night, from when I was doing those purple aspen trees, you know, that exist out there in nature. But so you just go like this a little bit, and you can just kind of wipe all that residual darker ink off there. It kind of sticks on there when it's dry. But again, you know, just to get these things cleaned off, you just kind of rub it like that. Now, I don't know, you know, you might be kind of cringing, like, hey, these inks are not going to be available for any longer, and you're kind of wasting some ink like that. That's what I do to get these things cleaned off. I'm not going to, you know, try to conserve, you know, super conserve or something like this for my pads and pens, you know, whatnot like that. Okay, so let's take a look at these. Let's go through some of these. I don't know if I'm going to do all of these. I decided to do a live stream. I thought, well, you know, it's funner kind of re-inking pens with our fellow stampers here. So, hello, everyone. Did I say hello to Linda, Rhonda? Oh my gosh, I was going to say hello 4069mega.com, you know, but you know, be gone with you. I don't know. Someone click the report or something like that on them, and maybe they'll get banned. On the other hand, it's like I said in other live streams. Oh yeah, you know, we're big enough to get spammed. Okay, so look at this one right here. This one's like completely dry, right? This is a magenta right here, and there's my other magenta like that. I mean, these are completely, you know, dry. So let's get some of these out like this. All right. Oh, if I can get this one right here. I don't use magenta very often, so the darker, brighter colors, you know, they're often like used in the corners of something like that. Hello, Chow. Good to see you. I hardly use these pens like that. So this cap, you know, on the back of the reservoir was, or the back of the barrel was really stiff like that. And like my magenta, it's like almost filled like this. You know, this is probably like a 25-year-old reinker. I barely use magenta, you know. If I do use it, it's usually like in the darker area of a transitioning sunset scene or something like that. So it's just, you know, barely anything on there. But this one needs quite a bit of ink. Your ink is going to last longer if you have it in your inker form, and being that I don't use this one too often, I'm not going to ink it up too much. I mean, you could really fill these up all the way if you just don't really feel like doing it again in like, you know, the next 5 years or something like that. But I don't know. I'm guessing I put in like 10 drops of each of these ones right in here. I'm not sure. Would Posh Vintage Reinkers work to reink Marvy? What is that, Candy? Is Posh anything to do with Posh Impressions and D. Grunig? If so, they would be Marvy brand. Are they Posh Marvy pens? Because D, you know, was like, you know, she was like, I don't know, like a spokesman for you know, Marvy marker. She was the one that put Marvy on the map in terms of the crafting industry. Look at this. I got ink all over my hands like that. I'm bleeding. But yeah, D would definitely, if that's what it is. Yeah, they would be. So what D used to do was she used to do licensing of her name or whatnot. I don't know how much licensing, because Marvy, I don't know, Uchida, you know, like I said, Uchida's a really big company. They're much bigger than any, like, a crafting company out there. Like a domestic company like Ranger, you know, or something like that, you know, Clear Snap. They have their hands in a lot of different things. Like I said, this is just a small thing of theirs, so I don't know how much they cared about you know, kind of really marketing their products, although they did go to CHA and HIA and all that type of thing. Okay, let's see. Let's get this going right here. Remember, this was like completely dry. Okay. Like that. See that right there? Okay, I mean, it's still a little bit dry. I mean, this one was like really dry here. But yeah, I'm guessing that D, she wouldn't have used, she wouldn't have been creating her own unique line of colors within the Marvy line. So they're probably, you know, if it's a Posh Vintage Reinker or something like that, that's like number 11, you know, green, it's going to be the number 11 light green there. Okay, let's take a look at these right here. There we go. All right. Now, I mean, I don't need to, you know, we don't need to have like a long video and the re-inking of several of these different markers right here, but sometimes we have colors that don't match up, okay? So let's say that I couldn't for the life of me find a olive green. I probably have a re-inker for it, but I have like 2 or 3 of these things going, okay? And I looked through all of them. I skimmed all of them, okay? I didn't look at, you know, exactly every one, but I didn't see an olive green in there, which these 2 pens are. I love the olive green color, you know, for landscapes. I mean, and naturally it's going to be a really great color for that purpose. Hello, Linda. Hello, Debbie. Sad news, you know, Marvy is not going, or Uchida USA, that's what it is. They're not going to be carrying the 1500 series of pens anymore, or just, you know, whatever they have is what they have. All right, folks, I'm going to have to use a plier or my teeth here. But here's the olive green, okay? And here's one of the things that you can do. Okay, instead of like tossing out a pen like this, okay? Because it's still, you know, very useful. Let's do it two different ways here. Let's go with, and that's not blood on my hands if you just logged on, that's magenta. Okay, so see, what you do is you go with a lighter tone. So this is pale green right here. I don't even know if I have a olive green pad here, but the olive green was, this isn't the olive green right here, this is a jungle green. But this one right here it's similar to this one, okay, in terms of value, in terms of darkness, okay? But the pale green is this one right here, okay? This is this color of re-inker, all right? So anytime you add in liquid into like a dye-based reservoir here, now I forgot which one was the front and which one was the back. I think this is the front right here. It will put whatever dried ink in here, whatever that ink is, back into solution, whatever ink's remaining in there, right? Because this one just dried out. So there's a lot of dry olive green in this reservoir right here. So I'm just going to go in and add in the pale green into the mix here. It's naturally going to come out with a lighter value than this original olive green, but again, you know, like I said, it's better than tossing it out in my opinion. Oh my god, look at this. This barrel right here is super wet. I don't know why that is right there. Because the pen was, or maybe I'm dripping out on the side right here. But that, I don't know, that green looked darker. See these hands like this? I'm going to just run a scouring or a pumice sponge over my fingers when I'm done here, and that'll take that right off. Thank goodness for the pumice sponge. Okay, so that is that. And then let's put some of the pale green in this right here. All right. Now, ideally, I would wait for this to merge with whatever residual olive green is still in the mix here. So it might look like straight pale green here, I'm not sure. But let's see what color it looks like right here, okay? So that is that, and there that is, okay? Let me see if I can show you what that pale green is just on its own here. All right, so it's a little bit lighter like that than that. See that difference right there? So, I mean, this hasn't even mixed with like all that ink that was in the barrel yet either. So there's a lot of moisture that was in this barrel that's going to mix. So that's going to get even darker. So you can do this for a while. You know what I mean? You don't have to have re-inkers for every pen that you get, if you get them, okay? You can go with a lighter version of re-inker and re-ink it. Now, that being said, I'm kind of curious to know what like a different brand of re-inker would look like that would be similar to the inks in here, just as long as you're using the same type of ink, like a dye-based and dye-based. The mementos are really different than Marvy inks in terms of viscosity, as well as the Ranger inks like Distress or something like that. But if you're going to, if it's going to be something where, okay, let's see, I don't have a grip on this one right here, but let's go with this just straight green right here. I think I'm losing my strength. Oh, here we go. I think my fingers are all getting kind of gummed up here, so it's hard to kind of get this barrel off the, the cap off the back of the barrel here. But here is green right here, okay, just straight green. Now, I have a re-inker for it, but let me just show you something right here. So this is the, I think this one was really dry too. Like that, see that, like that. Let's go in with, okay, here we go. Here's like a pine green right here, okay? It's a little bit different than just straight green too. Let's go in like this. Maybe I will, let's see, I don't think, see the thing is I don't have a lot of re-inkers in a lot of the other colors, like, maybe we should try like a Distress oh, I don't know, like a walnut or something like that. Walnut stain, is it called? Yeah, the walnut stain in a, I don't know, like a Marvy brown or something like that, and see how it works like that. I don't know if it will or not. But here's the pine green on just the straight. This Marvy number, I think it's number 4 green. Is it the number 4? Yeah. I still remember my Marvy colors. In the early days, like in the 80s and early 90s, we used to have tests on the different Marvy colors. We didn't, but everyone knew them, though. Okay. I think I've mentioned this before. It's like that was a color speak back then. You can say, hey, did you use is that a number 4 or is that a number 72 that you used there on those trees? Okay, so this is the pine green, and look at that. That's a beautifully saturated pen right there, okay? And again, I just put a couple little drops right there, but it hasn't fed down from the reservoir yet. Okay, now let's say you have some pens like this. Or, okay, this is like for any pens. If you can get into the reservoir, now there's a lot of pens out there that are dual tip too, right? So if you can get into, if it comes down to, hello Kay, if you can get into the reservoir somehow, okay, and I'm guessing through the thicker tip, if it's between you having to toss out a pen and just seeing if you can kind of resurrect it a little bit or extend its life for a little bit, you might as well try. And the thing, do I have a Tombow pen here? Okay, so here is a Tombow right here, and of course there's not going to be like an accessible reservoir, or is there? Maybe right here. See this one right here? Maybe there is. What you do is you get a plier and then take that off, right? Because it had to get on there somehow anyway. I was telling someone maybe the tip like this, the thicker brush tip, but I can see now the construction of this is that this plastic is right here. This color right here is, and they don't have the color on there, written on there, but it's kind of a grayish green, like that. And if you can take some kind of re-inker, Tombows don't have re-inkers, do they? I don't think so. Hello, Laura. You can probably, I bet you this area is accessible. And it's not just going to be, I don't think it's just going to be a barrel full of liquid, okay? It should be this more of a, the reservoir type of thing. Like, that felt reservoir on here. Like this, okay? If this was just loose, I think it would be leaking out like that. That's why they have that. It's like, this is like a straw here with some, like a cotton fiber in the inside. It's either that or it's like some kind of synthetic. I don't know if it would be synthetic or not, because synthetics, I don't know, they don't wick quite as well as natural fibers, but I'm not sure what the fibers are on this one. I guess they are, synthetic or something like that, but I think you can get into them, and I think you can just try blending in some different tones. You know what I mean? You might as well extend the life of your pens if you have them. These days, there might be pens out there. I just don't. I'm doing this video because I just don't know if there's any other like really thick brush markers like the 1500 series of Marvys like this. So we're kind of limited. There's tons and tons of different types of pens that are probably the dual-sided ones or the fine points. Okay. And those aren't quite as good for like coloring up, a large stamp or a stamp that has a lot of texture on there. Because see, like this, see my tip here, I don't know if you can see that or not, but the tips on these can get kind of frayed, but it's not really going to be that much of a problem. See, it's not, that big of a deal because you're always using that for doing something like this. You're not using something like this for like fine point kind of detailed coloring within the lines of some outline stamp or something like that. So, so we got to figure out how to extend the life of these pens as far as they'll go. And like I said, these pens of mine I've had for years and years and years, and they're still great for that, for the purpose that I've been using them for. So, yeah, try, you probably have, like I said, I don't know, you probably all have re-inkers of some sort for certain pads of yours. Even if you don't have too many, if you know kind of the basics of color blends and things like that. This is a really dark violet, so a component of violet would be something like pink and blue. If, you can put either one of those in there, it will mix with whatever color is already in the reservoirs of this, at the Tombow or something like that, okay? And, you should get, you should be able to extend the life of those types of pens for as long as you, want to. The different thing with the Tombos or something like that is, probably, when the tip is kind of gone or frayed or whatever, and it's, it's not great for whatever brush marker type of application you have for it, or the fine point one on the back side of it, then maybe you toss it out or something like that. But, if your tips are still good, why not just use it? Okay, so this is just violet right here. Again, this isn't a color that I use too much, but, just re-inking it like that. Probably the last time I re-inked was, I'm guessing I did that video like 5 years ago, so this lasts for quite a long time. Here's my yellows right here. I've been using a lot of my yellows for the autumn series, so yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that could be, Debbie. I don't know if they are. It looks, I don't know what it is. It looks like the fibers are one continuous thing. This one's one of my better tips here, because this is like a pen that's about 10 years newer than my other ones, because it has this black barrel rather than this just straight colored one like this. This is cheaper for them to make right here, I think, because they didn't have to do a specific color per pen like that, But I don't know. It could be, Debbie. I'm not sure. Kay gave all her Marvies to your niece. Okay, well, I hope she's using them. Okay, now see, when I use these lighter tones like this, it's often after I've put down a darker tone, then I go back into the lighter ones, right? So here's the thing with viscosity, too. Or, not viscosity, but whatever, relative dampness or something like that. If I go in with something like this color, and then I have a bunch of highlights with these colors, the lighter ones, I usually want the lighter ones to be juicier than the darker ones, or at least equivalent, because if you go on and color in highlights on an image, let's imagine these are aspen trees or something like that, not pine trees, okay? If you lay something like this down, and then if you're going in and coloring in like highlights with a drier one, oftentimes what you're going to be doing is you're going to be absorbing ink back up into these, as opposed to these inks transferring onto that one. So I go pretty juicy with these ones. Like I said, I don't know if I've re-inked all of these right here. I don't know, maybe I have, because these caps are coming off pretty easy. This one right here is, oh, this one's a lemon yellow. Lemony yellow. Okay, so this is a lemony yellow, this one's a yellow. Okay, these two are just plain. This one looks green though, huh? Okay, so let's go like that. Let me see, let me keep these in order so I know which is, well, I don't know, I'll know which one is what. Okay, so I don't, see, lemony yellow was not available in pad form. Yeah, that one's not too bad though. Okay, I don't need to re-ink that one, but let's take a look at these ones right here. It's pretty good, but it dries out if I go, if that stroke is about 5 inches or something like that. So, I mean, they need it though, because I really need that, that dampness in these ones right here. I use the yellow a lot in sunsets, fall tones, aspens, maples, etc. Okay. I can see this, it's not soaking in quite as fast because these ones weren't quite as dry as, I don't know, whatever that green one or whatever was. I am going to put a little of this into this lemony yellow though. Why not? I mean, this is going to be the color that I'm going to be using in here eventually anyway. Okay, now another thing you can do, let's say you don't have any reinkers at all, okay? And you just want to extend the life of whatever pens you have. One of the things that I used to do too was, it's going to change the spirit of your pens a lot more than re-inking them with re-inker fluid. But you could just put water in them, and what you get is a juicy but lighter and less intense version of these inks, right? Because you're watering it down, right? But these are, they're water-based pens. And I think what I used to do is I used to put a little piece of tape on them so that I knew that those ones were just going to be my, my pens that were different, in terms of, way different in terms of color. And, I know what I know what I'm getting into when I'm using those ones. I just know that I'm using a lighter and duller version of it. And I don't know why. Oh yeah. The reason why I used to do that though, it was because Marvy matchables were not out, so there were no inks to re-ink these with back then. Okay, so we used these pens for probably, at least I was using them for the I don't know, maybe from 87 to 94, 5, 6 or something like that. So 8, 9 years. I was going through pens like crazy because I was doing a lot of coloring of these master boards for A Stamp in the Hand, who used different types of things back then, mounts back then. But yeah, we were tossing pens out all the time, and eventually I thought, my God, I'm going through pens like crazy, and so I just started diluting them and then using them that way. Tim Olks has a ink refresher. Yeah, glycerin. Yeah, that would just be probably a clear type of. What that glycerin is, that ink refresher, it's the binder that's used in these inks minus the dyes or the pigment, the colors. So that's probably what it is. It's just the binder like that. I don't know about Creative Memories. Now, if they look like these though, they probably are these, especially if Creative Memories was out there like in the 90s, early 2000s or something like that. But here we go. These pens, see this right here? I get a really long stroke, however long, and it's nice and juicy again. I haven't, we haven't absorbed all that color, but look at that though. I mean, it's really great that we can do this. So like I said, just extend the life of your pens out. All right, I don't have a plier on me right now to see if this one's, can come out, but this one's like super juicy anyways. I never use my Tombos because most of the times I'm not stamping something out and coloring it in like this. But see this tip right here? That it's your typical brush marker tip like that. Don't look at my hand. I mean, you can color like this, okay? But that really fine brush marker style of tip is not, they call these brush markers like this, but it's more like a big, thick bullet tip, So let's compare the two like this. And this is the Tombow one, but the Le Plumes are basically the same thing as the Tombows. I know, I'm just talking about in terms of general make. A lot of people have like their opinions on either the Tombows or Le Plumes or whatever like that. Hello, Donna, in Illinois. Good to see you. But anyways, here's the brush marker tip like this. Here, let's compare like a non-shredded tip like this one. Oh, here it is. Oh, here it is right here. Not that one. My other ones are shredded, but a little bit of a sharper tip like that. Eventually, my tips all look like this. But remember, this pen's like I said, 30 years old, and I stamp a lot, so. But these are, what these two brush markers look like. So that's why these ones worked really well, and you don't have this thing like just like a frayed, shredded tip like that or something like. It'd probably look like this, after about 30 years of this type of usage on here. Maybe, I don't know. So that's why these pens are pretty good, and if you think you might want some, now's the time. Fair warning, if anyone has just joined in, a customer of mine that I directed over to Uchida today said that the 1500 series, it's whatever's left in inventory is available right now. Same thing with the re-inkers, which I knew at the time, but I didn't know the re-inkers were kind of in already getting in short supply. I knew the black would probably go really fast, but, well, it depends what you're using them for, Donna. If you need like a big wide application of something, then you want the fat one. But if you don't need it at all, then yeah, they wouldn't be good for that. They're not good for detailed coloring, but that's not what these 1500 series are about. If you have to ink up this like this with a pen. Now, see, here's the thing that I do too. We used to color like this whole thing up with pens, right? But here's what I do these days too, because pads are out there. You just ink it up with a pad, like a green pad or whatever. And then I go in with these pens like this. Let's say I'm going green up here. I'm using my lighter tones of green to put my highlighting back in there like that with the lighter color of pen. So we're not doing the whole thing. So, but with these ones too, I wouldn't feel really great about polluting these types of colors like this, these fine point tones like this, on something like this. So what I do is I ink up with a darker tone like this, and you go back in with a lighter tone, right back into it, and you just swirl off that residual color that's on there. I don't think, I wouldn't want to do that with, super fine tip like this, because the whole point of these brush markers, fine tip brush markers, are for those, those fine types of applications and more detailed types of things. So two completely different types of things, like that. Oh, hello in Tejas. It's an Ariel. Okay, let's see here. Let's go like this. Inking up stamp if you have not got a pen. Yeah. So, yeah, like I said, we're not doing all complete inking up with the pens like that anymore. We used to, and that's why we used to go through these pens like crazy. Before I thought about re-inking them, okay? Because, like, again, even when Marvy Matchables, the pads came out, they didn't have the re-inkers at the time, so we didn't even think about it. I was tossing away so many pads every week because I was teaching workshops all the time with them. And I don't know, I wouldn't be surprised if I tossed out, it's a horrible waste, when you think about it these days, in terms of reduce, reuse, recycle, and everything like that. I didn't feel good about it, but Marvy didn't come out with their re-inker bottles for their pads. It must have taken 2 years or something like that, It took them a long time to do that. So they finally got around to it. And, yeah, now they're gone. I'm not sweating it too much, over the last several years, I've just been saying, hey, if you really want to get really bright tones, then you got to get a few re-inkers, okay? And you don't need a lot of Marvy re-inkers, okay? You can just use all the pads you already have. Some people have like 50 pads, okay? And no Marvies, okay? And you have all kinds of different color schemes, every value of every color in different lines of inks, okay? But all you have to do is, if you add in one Marvy color into the mix, if you're layering colors, that one color is all it will take to increase the intensity level, which is the brightness level, in terms of a kind of sliding scale of dull to bright. The Marvy Matchables, the Marvy inks in general, they're just so much brighter than every other line of inks. Okay, these pads were out. These pens were out there long before ink pads and rubber stamping, and everything like that. Well, I mean, some people, if you were stamping in the 70s, there weren't too many people that were stamping enthusiasts back in the 70s and, something like that. But these pens were around there a long time. So they had really super bright tones like this, okay? Pad form came out, and the different companies had to go with a much thicker ink, so that binder that I was talking about, the ink refresher, that's the binder that's in like a Ranger ink or Memento or whatever ink. And those binders are a lot thicker, okay? Because what they have is these different pads are felt pads, okay? So felt pads like that, the reason why raised dye-based inks didn't come out for a long time is because, and they were always recessed pads, right? But stampers, I mean, it's, that's not great for us. We had to have raised pads, so they made a thicker ink so that when you have a raised pad, when they're shipping this or something like that, all that ink isn't just pouring out of the pad, And I think that viscosity or whatever, or it's either that or just Marvy, I don't know, they're their own ink makers and whatnot. They had the formulas for just brighter tones. And there's 100, what was it, like 100, I don't know, whatever I said, 120 different pens or something like that. So here's this really super, super dry green right here. Here's my light green. Now here's an example of adding in a tone. If I had 3 or 4 different Mementos, whatever, Ranger, whatever, different brands, okay, you can add in this one right here, this number 11 green, into any brand. I don't remember what the tip was here. I'll put it in this way. But this green right here added into the mix. I don't like this green just on its own. It's just simply too bright. That's why I always mute it with brown tones or something like that, or distress ink, antique linen, walnut or something like that, a brownish tone to kind of mute it down a little bit, along with some other greens too, to get, the darker tones of greens for grassy textures, trees and whatnot. We use a lot of greens in scenic stamping, so if I want a real brightness component to it, then this is the one. And if you I hope it's still, I hope they still have this one. I'm talking about this right here, but, it's going to be just really bright. You add this into the mix. Okay, this right here. Let's see. I'll get this going here, but that green right there is going to be really bright coming through all of your other colors laid on top of it. And what I mean by adding this as a component within your, your color scheme or whatnot, dye-based inks are transparent. So if you add this even as a base coat or something like that, and you build up all your other colors over the top of it, it will show through in terms of intensity. I should have had some of these different kind of examples here on dye-based inks. I don't have a dye-based ink thing. I've been stamping on top of things like, holographic printable vinyls of late. So I've been using things like alcohol pens and whatnot. But this, these types of colors like this can be really valuable. Even like you can see this yellow, the green on top of the yellow like that, And this is just matte paper right here, so that's completely absorbing into it, but it's a really bright color. And I just don't find that a lot of times in other lines to that degree. There are some certain colors that are certainly compatible with some Marvy inks, but Marvy, I don't know, they just tended to put a lot of super intensity into their colors, which I don't like for all my color schemes, okay? I like to have these mixed in with other brands of inks that are kind of maybe a little bit more earthy, aged, i.e. the distress inks, which are supposed to be duller and weathered and aged looking, so that these types of things make a really good complement to, each other, because you have the intensity scale going from kind of your duller, more aged look to the super bright and intense look like that, so you get a nice wide range to your scenes. And the wider range you kind of have on a given piece of work, you know, the more potentially kind of rich a surface it is. You know, just like, you know, lights and darks, brights and dulls, what else? You know, warms and cools, temperature, different hues, whatever. But anyways, you know, this one right here is a laurel green that doesn't exist in pad form, but you can use a gray in here. I don't even know if this one's dry here. Yeah, it is pretty dry. So, okay, so this laurel green right here, you can put in maybe some gray, which exists in the Marvy lineup, as well as a little bit of green, and you probably get something fairly similar to that. Let's see, what did Ariel say? The history of crafts is really interesting to me because it is so wrapped in gender, class, etc., etc. Oh, that's interesting. Ariel, you must be going like way back and not just, you know, like when the last like couple decades, you know, like rubber stamping here. Oh yeah, oral history. Don't know all that. I go back to, in terms of like crafting history, to like 1987. I know all that type of thing though. No, I don't know a lot of it. Okay, I know some of it, like, you know, like Marvy's, because I used it so much. Sounds interesting though. Put that Errol have as a history. Put that on your channel there in terms of the history of crafting. That would be interesting to find out. I do know some of the history of like rubber and stuff like that, because it was in that those books on rubber stamping. I think it's the Rubber Stampers album. Yeah, the Rubber Stampers album, which is a book that came out in the 80s. You can find it on eBay and places like that now, but I need to re-ink this orange here for my autumn scenes here. See how dull? Look at this tip right here, you know. See this tip like that, if you get like a tip like that on like a La Plume or a Tombow, you know, unless you're just using it like I do, you know what I mean, it's that's useless. But this one right here is just perfectly fine still for the usage that I'm doing. You know, it's the pen like this, I'm not using it like a brush marker, you know, and doing like some kind of script or something like that, you know what I mean? It's basically becomes just like a ink applicator for colors or something like that. I go way back, Ariel, like that, in stamping. A lot of people that are in stamping weren't even born, you know, in, like, even like in the 90s. That's always kind of a weird thing. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm talking to someone that, like, born in the 2000s, you know what I mean? That's someone that's in stamping in the 2000s. That's one of the things I had to kind of realize. It's like when I was, when we were talking about unmounted rubber stamps, okay, a lot of people don't know what to do with unmounted rubber because they have only used clear stamps. Okay, that's a lot of people though, you know what I mean? I don't know when clear stamps kind of came out, but, you know, that's just what a lot of people are kind of used to. So that's one of the things I had to kind of, I didn't realize that until, I don't know, it was like a year and a half ago or something like that. I needed to explain to people the difference between rubber and the mounting of it. Okay, everyone thought, okay, well, rubber, unmounted rubber would just stick to like acrylic blocks or something like that. I just, CM says, scrolled up beyond my view here. Uchida would always have the 1500 series markers and matchables around for years to come. I'm going to adjust here, you know. I'm not going to sweat these markers and that reinkers not being available. I feel like if I kind of, was bummed out about it, I don't know, it would be like, I don't know. There's so many more things available now too that weren't available back then. Like I have all these pens out right here. See, like these things, these acrylic paint pens. These I don't think these were out there 10 years ago. If they were, I wasn't completely unaware of it. Okay. But yeah, there's so many more things out there. The holographic papers, the mirrored card stocks. This is the pearl, printing paper. Inkjet laser printing paper these days. I mean, I didn't use any. I use the Marvy inks to print out that, but I could print that out in something else too. Okay, I am a little bit concerned about the Brilliance inks in that there's nothing else out there in the Brilliance inks form for certain applications. These are the only water-based pigment inks out there. We can find other dye-based inks out there. I think that's why they're discontinuing these things too, is because there's a big part of Marvy's sales in marker form were their sets, but these are like for the artist crafter, okay? These pens like this, they're $2 each usually, and they come in sets, of 10 or something like that. And at that price point, let's say a set of 10 is $15 because it's in set form. But these days you can go onto like Amazon and there's those really inexpensive sets of so many different things, and you might be able to find a set of 40 watercolor pens or dye-based pens or whatever they're called, whatever they're going by. They're water-based ones, right? And it might be $15 or something like that for four. I don't know. I haven't looked at those because I haven't needed any type of dye-based pens, but and they're also, they told this one customer of mine that looked into it. They said they're discontinuing these ones because the La Plume pens, which are the same inks and colors as I don't think they have La Plumes in every single color of the 1500. I could be mistaken about that, but those pens are just so much more popular than these brush markers because people aren't doing like heavy types of coloring anymore on more bolder styles of stamps. It's mostly stamp something out and then color it in afterwards. Okay, that's the way it's been for a while. So, yeah. I'm old as dirt too. This is what an answering machine was. Someone was saying, someone was using I don't know if it was a rotary phone or something like that, or a landline, but they were quite enchanted by it. Someone that hadn't used a landline phone before. So we're getting, it's kind of strange. We're getting into that level. Yeah. Let's see. Bought a new cell phone and guy helping me set it up had no idea. Oh, and then no idea what AOL is, Yeah. Yeah, I'd imagine that, yeah, that's probably an easy case with that AOL there. I mean, people don't know what AOL is, but a lot of people, I think a lot of people kind of forgot what like Prodigy was or something like that, long ago. I mean, there weren't as many people on something like that, but yeah. What else was there? I don't know. CDs, something like that. Although vinyl's come back for some reason, or it's been back for a while, which is really cool and interesting, though. But anyways, okay, so we have all these different types of pens like that. Re-inkers, if you're tossing out your pens, you might as well give this a shot. And like I said, if you know kind of the basics of ink blends and whatnot, okay, and let's say you have some Marvy pens or you have some Tombos or something like that, okay, you don't want to get 50 re-inkers or so, you know what I mean? You can get something like your base, your primaries. You can get like a pink like this. They're out of the salvia blue, but they have the Caribbean blue in stock still. But any of your darker blues, your Prussian blues, even your lighter blues like this, you can use, you can throw a Caribbean blue in there or something like that, and reinvigorate maybe, you know, if you have them, Like I said, there's probably a lot of different pens out there that are really inexpensive. I don't know if there's anything the equivalent of this type of kind of more heavier kind of mark pen. If there are, I guess, we don't need to worry about this, or I don't know, maybe that's not the right word, but when it comes to that. But yeah, I don't know. Try different things though, and cross mix. Here's a distress antique linen. Okay, now see the antique linen. I would rather re-ink with, like, say, a antique linen than the ink refresher if I was going to add this to, like, say, something like, these brown tones like this. I'd rather add in a hue that's at least a little bit related to them. This would be a super light version, I mean, something like the walnut. I don't think I have the walnut stain re-inker for this one yet, but this one would be a good one, to add into the mix. I don't think it would, it's not going to make the flow of ink seize, I don't think, I think it would be fine. The inks on the viscosity on these, the Distress and Ranger inks are thicker than the Marvys, but like I said, if it comes down to either tossing something like this out or, taking the chance and re-inking it a little bit, or just what you do is you just put some of this ink, don't even open up the reservoir and just put a little bit on the tip like that, let it sit for a day or something like that and let it kind of mix a little bit with the, and put the other inks, inherent inks, back into solution and see if it works for you. And, you might get a cool color. Some of the colors might be even kind of, I don't know, richer than, I don't know, just the straight versions of what they used to be. So you just have to remember, and it would always be changing if you keep adding in that kind of, that lighter version of a different hue. It just keep getting lighter and lighter and lighter. The problem is if you get, oh, that's my favorite brown ever, you know what I mean? Then you add more of this, but it's going to be a lighter version of it or something like that. But why not, And like I said, just go for that water one, and go for kind of a more watercolory looking type of thing, It's going to be duller, and, if it's just straight water, or you can use that, that ink refresher thing or whatever, pad refresher, I think you called it. You can go for something like that in there too, and just to reinvigorate both pad and pen. Yeah. Alcohol, I don't know anything about that, Donna, in terms of re-inkers. The Spectrum Noirs, if you have... Now, I know, like, Copics come with those re-inkers, I would suggest, if there's a way to get into the barrel, like I have La Plume ones, and I don't know if there's a way to get in this tip. I have a feeling that the ink went into this tip right here, because this doesn't look like a removable area right here. Maybe there's some kind of connection right here, but, if you have, again, if you have Spectrum Noirs and they don't come with re-inkers, and if there's a way to get into them, maybe, again, you go with kind of a set of little primaries, like a tan, like for brown tones, if you go with a light blue, something like that. The one thing about the alcohol, though, I think that with the alcohol, the difference between the alcohols, though, when they're dry, I think they're just going to be dry. In a dye-based ink situation like this, there's a lot of dried dye-based ink still in this reservoir like this, okay? And that goes back into solution when moisture hits it, okay? So it's going to mix with whatever you put in here. I have a feeling that with the alcohol, there's not so much residual dry ink in here. I have a feeling that these could be just straight ink in here. And, some of you guys have Copics, right? Are your Copics, is there a reservoir inside the Copic? Or are you just putting drops of ink into like a cylinder? Or is there like a little reservoir within the body? You know, someone here can probably answer that. If there's a reservoir that comes out of the body, then maybe, you know, you can get some kind of version. But I have a feeling that if you kind of go into those certain types of alcohol inks and you just put in straight ink from another color, I think that you're going to get mostly that color out instead of some kind of fusion of whatever color was dry in there. And the new, by the way, did I do this? I don't think I did this one right here. This is the orange. This is the orange right here. And here's my, look at this, I got a brand new pen like that, you know what I mean? I saved myself $2 with, you know, probably, I don't know, whatever, 5 cents of ink. I don't know, whatever that would be. Maybe 10, maybe that was 10 cents like that, right? So, yeah, I don't know. It works with the dyes really good. I don't know what other types of pens are out there, you know, the markers like that. You know, you're not gonna fill up, you know, acrylic paint markers or something like that. That's not gonna work out. So, goodbye, Debbie. Oh yeah. The alcohol markers have replaceable nibs. I got some of the paint pens like this. Even have replaceable nibs. Not this brand, but I received some other types of pens, and there's like these nibs, and I was like, what the heck are these? Oh, they're in case those nibs go bad. But you can't, you know, invigorate or something like that. Memento reinkers. I would think the Memento reinkers would work in there. Okay, Rhonda. You mean Memento, right? You're talking about these right here, right? They should. Again, the viscosity is going to be different, okay? But I don't think adding Memento reinker fluid into the Marvy's 1500 series, I don't think that's going to, you know, keep those pens from working. You know, it might be a little bit thicker, so I don't know what the flow rate would be, but it should be fine, I would guess. Okay, I don't think it's not going to dry like a dye-based, you know, ink on dye-based ink isn't going to make it, you know, some kind of chemical reaction like that, and, you know, make it dry or something like that. Yeah. Let's see here. Someone was talking about a phone call and getting like a busy signal or something like that. I don't know. I was watching some sitcom or something like that. Oh, slow internet speeds. Yeah. Remember the dial-up whole thing? Was that 14.4 and 28.8 modems, and then I don't know what went after that. You know, live streams, no way. You know, something like this. And paint type markers that are at least 15 years old. Can't remember the name of them. Opaque something. I don't know what those ones would be, Debbie, but that sounds pretty cool. You had a whole set of them though, right? Or did you? Or did you buy them individually? I wasn't on the lookout for paint types of things back then. I was on the lookout for gel pens though back when. Oh, and I do have things like these Sharpie paint pens. Maybe these Sharpie paint pens are 15 years old now that I think about it. I think they are. I guess I did know about some certain types of paint pens. I don't know. I thought I got these like 5 years ago. But now that I'm thinking about it, yeah, my son's like 16 now. I just aged like 10 years in this whole video now that you guys reminded me. I thought I was in my 40s, but no. Alcohol, yeah, let's see. Copics, similar thin and thick tips. Yeah. Sharpie markers, yeah, the solvent inks, yeah, we're not re-inking those types of things like that. Let's see. Scrolling down. Flippable nibs. What is that? What's a flippable nib? Some markers you can remove the tip to add the ink. Okay, now I was wondering about that, Linda. If you can remove the nib, you know, especially, I was telling someone that, you know, the wider tip, you know, side, you can probably get into, but now I'm thinking, you know, like on the Tombos, I don't know if the plumes, but this part right here clearly can become disengaged from there, and I'm guessing that would be the easiest way in there. But those ones, sometimes it's like one piece, like this, you know, where this tip goes right in there. Again, don't look at my hands, but that wider tip one, I think that can come out, and then you can add in ink down there. I never use these like Laplumes or Tombos, you know, like ever. So this is like some 20-year-old pen that just, you know, it's like brand new, you know, here for me. But yeah, I got to think that we can get in, you know, access those reservoirs somehow. But the thing that, you know, I don't know about this right here, like if you just took out the nib like that, there's probably that felt reservoir in here, okay? So if you can't access that reservoir and fill them up like I've been doing on these Marvies right here, when you're putting those drips of ink down there, I guess, you know, you might get some into the internal reservoir, but some might be going on the outside of that reservoir, and it might be prone to drying up a little bit faster or something like that. I don't know. I guess if you're using this and it's, you know, gravity, you know, going down there, maybe you would get that ink that didn't go in there. But that would be my only kind of, you know, concern with re-inking via the tip area. And then one other thing about pulling out the tips, if you don't have new tips to go in there, it probably becomes a little bit looser. So around there, where you might, if you're storing it this way, you might get a little bit of leakage coming out of there. So if you ever do something with a tip axis like that, where you're using the same tip to go back in there, maybe you store them this way then, you know, and have like the smaller end that you didn't open up on the bottom part, or you just store them on their sides like that. And don't re-ink too much, probably too, if that's something like that. You know, these Marvy ones, you know, these Marvies are super easy to re-ink, but some of the other ones, if you have any questions or uncertain about it, you know, in terms of how you've accessed it, you know, I'd be, you know, I don't know, whether, you know, take that into consideration probably. Oh, Lindsay, awesome. Yeah, Lindsay would know probably a ton of info on that. You remove the tip to add alcohol to the Copics. Okay, so that's the way to get in there. Or drop it through the tip. Yeah, on those alcohol ones, you know, so like the Copics, like I said, you know, if someone has a different brand of those, you can probably get the Copic re-inkers. And I don't know, I don't know, you guys are probably like me, there's probably like a grouping of I don't know, like 10 of your favorite colors that you typically use over and over. Those are the ones that I would get the re-inkers for. You know, and I would use those ones, and it would be great if you can extend the life of those other brands via the, you know, the Copic refills or whatever, you know, if the other brands, no other brands have a re-inker. And I think Copics they would definitely have a color line extensive enough to, you know, get close to whatever colors you already have in the other brands. I use the Laplumes here, you know. Someone sent me these like years ago directly. They had a connection with Marvy, so I just use these ones like that. And then I do have some other like really cheap ones, you know, that I bought off of like Amazon and whatnot. But I usually, for my usage with the alcohol inks, I'm always using the pastel ones, so I hardly ever use the brighter tones. So I don't know, my pens, I don't know, it's like never-ending supply, but I don't ink up like big vast areas with the Copic markers, you know, either. So I don't use them probably as much as, you know, like Copic artists or, you know, things like that are doing like, you know, those big huge pieces with like a lot of blended tones on there. Pumice sponge. Can I get a pumice sponge from my Japanese $3 shop? I will check. Yeah, pumice sponge. You can look up pumice stone, you know, but the pumice sponges, I don't think they're the actual stone. They're like I don't know if they're a synthetic or something like that, but this will come like right off, you know. I used to have, you know, before I had that sponge, I was just using you know, the scouring side of like a kitchen sponge, you know, so you kind of, you know, you lose a little, you know, your epidermis at the same time. But the pumice one just takes this right off there. Hello, Cheryl. Hello, CJ. Hello, Laura. Yeah, we're just wrapping it up here. I came out, we were talking about inks and making like beautiful, you know, paintings like this with it, abstracts. We were teaching abstract landscape painting right here. And this is called someone, I don't know, someone came up with a name for it. It was like Fury in Yellow, wasn't that it? But we were just talking about re-inking these inks right here. Bad news, not only are the Marvy matchables long since gone, and then the blank pads gone, but the re-inkers, they were never going to keep those in production. But those ones are starting to run out on the Uchida website. Okay, like even like Salvia Blue was gone. I used to order a ton of that one, so maybe I emptied them out. When I was teaching workshops, I was ordering those ones by the dozens, all the time, because that was the first color that we used on all of our scenes. And I started using the re-inker fluids instead of using direct from pad. So I bought, I don't know, maybe I'm to blame for that Salvia Blue running out on that one. And certainly the black's gone too. So we went through those like crazy, but there's a lot of colors gone. But what I'm getting at was the 1500 series Marvy brush markers, maybe the all-time markers for direct to stamp coloring, discontinued. Only, whatever remaining inventory is what they're going to have on the Uchida website. They might have it on other websites. I don't know. I don't think these were never that popular after, like I don't know, early 2000s maybe, or something like that. People weren't doing as much, that type of coloring, a la the D. Grunig type of, Posh Impressions types of colorings and whatnot, the watercolory type of look, with a lot of bolder imagery and eraser types of carvings. Like eraser carving was big at one point in time in the stamping community, making your own stamps and carving your own stamps. And these pens were really perfect for that too. So, yeah. Yeah, Linda, that would be good. I spend all my money on like extra like pads and inks and stuff like that, it's not bad walking around in public like this, is it? Going out to like this is what my hands didn't look this bad like after like an 8-hour demo at conventions, but sometimes kind of like that. And then I didn't travel with a pumice sponge at the time, so and I could not get this out with just water and soap. You got to use like a pumice sponge or scouring sponge or something like that. I tried to get it off with like paper towels and put soap on it, but I'd have to go out to dinner like this after the like conventions until I got a pumice, started traveling with the pumice sponge. But yeah. Oh, CJ, you got the set. Okay. Of the Marvies. Yeah. Let's see. Awesome. But keep in mind, the pens, if there's any colors that people think you might want at some point in time, now's the time to get it in both the inker and pen form. I might go and pick up a couple more pens myself. I try not to get too much of that though, because if I'm using discontinued stuff, it's not good for me to use it if I'm doing these types of demonstrations and whatnot. People are still asking me about, Clear Snap stylus tools. So, because the videos are still up, and I don't know, people go out searching and searching and searching. I have to say, hey, they've been discontinued for 5 years, or whatever it's been. Yeah. I'm with you, Laura. Mine are 20, 30 years old here, my pens. So one of the things, Laura, so Laura, you probably know about re-inking them, your pens, right? Laura's pens are 20 years old, there's no doubt, unless we're not using them all the time or periodically. I don't use mine all the time, but they're going to dry out. But I don't know, the re-inking was a really good option for us Marvy fans. I don't know, we're not going to talk about Marvies anymore, one of these days. with the reinkers gone, the pen's gone. I don't talk about these too often, but a lot of times when I'm inking up my stuff, I got to find another type of process or whatnot, or just, I don't know. Maybe it's, stamping on foils or something like that, or embossing or something like that, holographic cardstocks. Went to the dentist with a bunch of different shades of brown on my fingernail. CJ, we wear our we wear our colored inked up hands with pride. We shouldn't be hiding these types. We're artists. We're crafters and whatnot. We should we should put that out there. We should put arrows on it. Look underneath, or something like that. All right, Linda, great to see you. Thanks everyone for joining in. Have a great rest of evening and such. I don't know if anyone has great sources. Some people have listed sources for things like pads and pens and blank Marvy pads. There was a website out there that still had some of that. If you want to share it, sometimes people are like, hey, I don't want to put this out there because I want to I want those to be available. Should I want to get those later on? But if you feel like sharing, what I mean, with our really great sharing community here, please list it in the comment section underneath this video later, afterwards or something like that, if you find out some things, or if you find out like a good alternative to something like this, at any point in time, please kind of jump back on the this video here. I'll tab it, Marvy 1500 series, or and all that type of stuff. If you have to look for it again and say, hey, you found these pens on the set on wherever, Amazon or something like that. That's kind of can take the place of these types of things with that big brush tip on there or something like that. CJ, they just don't sell. The only reason for any of these companies to kind of start discontinuing stuff is that they just don't sell. As I was mentioning earlier, the La Plumes, the Tombos, those types of pens, the La Plumes even within the Marvy line are just so much more popular. People aren't coloring, big images like this, solid images, or stuff with a lot of surface area. Most of the coloring these days, it's stamping something out like in a stays on ink or something like that, and then you're coloring in afterwards. And not only that, most people are using more alcohol-based pens as opposed to dye-based ink for that purpose. And why not? Alcohol inks are really awesome. But as far as getting your impressions, though, I don't know. It's really hard to get past the 1500 series of markers. So, yeah. But like I said, I'm not really too worried about it. I have so many different tools these days that I'm using that weren't around, back when, if not just a few years ago even, and relatively inexpensive in comparison to stuff like that. Sometimes, you're buying paint pens at, that Michael's display, or a gel pen or something like that, and it was like $2.50 each or $3 or something like that, And sometimes it didn't work for longer than like 6 months. So anyways, yeah, there's a lot of different types of things out there, options for us. But I don't know, it's still sad. Marvy inks, that was the best quality ink out there. You know what I mean? They just, there's better lines of colors out there, I should say. But in terms of the intensity and brightness and richness of ink, to me, it's Marvy, and there's nothing close to it, okay? Like I said, I love other brands of inks. I get these too, okay? I like the viscosity of this. I like the range of kind of more muted values to pair with these ones. But if I needed that intensity, Marvy inks, to me, are like double the next one out there. And I think it's because of that viscosity, The Marvy inks were in this form like this, so they didn't have to worry about the viscosity and for these inks to be running out of a raised pad. The pens were first with Marvy, and then they have the denser foam to retain that, that thinner but richer style of ink. Okay, so that's how they work these ones out. That's probably why they were a little bit late to the party with raised dye base pads. They already had the inks out there, but they had to come out with a delivery system for those inks in pad form. So they were out there like, I don't know, it took like 3 or 4 years for Marvy to come out with the pads, back then. And plus Marvy they went all the way with the color indexed pad forms like this, as opposed to all other places just use a sticker, right? And just put it over just a generic case. So, generic, pad forms, and just put the sticker on the back and front. But Marvy, Marvy really went all out with their products, so that's what took them so long to always come out with new things like that. So, you can't use that CJ alcohol markers directly on the stamp. It's going to dry probably. You can try, like if you're going to stamp out something like this, in alcohol form, maybe you can get that on there fast. I mean, go like stamp it, really fast, but the alcohol inks are probably going to be evaporating even faster than even like a StazOn ink. I don't know. Has anyone ever tried that? Alcohol inks directly on a stamp for the impressions? Maybe you can answer CJ better than I can for that. I've never tried it because it never even occurred to me. I think it would, and then you would probably have to get the residue off of this stamp too. That alcohol is going to be drying on there, but we have to do that with StazOn, stuff like that too, which I hadn't been doing, and I kind of ran into some problems in last night's live stream. So I cleaned a bunch of stamps today. It was ridiculous. Anyways, thanks again, everyone. We're gonna go and make dinner now here, whatever time it is for you guys or time of day. Thanks for joining in. To the pumice sponge for me now. How do you spell pum? Oops, I spelled pumice wrong. That's a I-C-E, right? Oh, yeah. That's a good point there, too, Rhonda. Alcohol inks drying out the stamps. That could be the same for solvent inks, too, over time. But just clean them off. I don't know. I use 100% red rubber, so you don't need to worry about that too much. I don't use a filler. But, yeah, probably clean it off afterwards. All right, good night. For everyone except for Linda. Good afternoon. Have a good lunch there, Linda. All right, good night, everyone. CJ's in, Central. Yeah, we jumped on a little bit earlier this time. Okay, so we'll have a good rest of evening. We'll see everyone at midnight tonight, Pacific Standard Time for, the other live stream. Just joking. Probably not.